I'd like to welcome everybody back to the Abington Middle High School for our August 2024 regular scheduled meeting. Sorry, new era. If anybody could please stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First order of business, hearing of visitors. If anybody would like to address the committee, I just ask them to come to the podium and please state your name and address for the minutes.
Hi there, Mike McDonald, 3 Pinecrest Road. I applaud the cell phone, the beginnings of the cell phone, restriction. I think it's amazing that this is getting started. But my concern is like the penalty on kids removing their cell phone. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is if there's not, if you take the phone, great. I mean, that's fine by me. But I don't know how that's going to work out. Detention, or do you have detention, or is there detention? I wouldn't even know. But yeah, that's really, I applaud that we're starting this, because it has been such a distraction for so long, and the kids have lost so much, and they continue to lose. So I think it needs to be enforced. So I don't know how you plan on doing that, and I'd love to hear. I think you were going to speak about it.
I'm going to defer to Dr. Michelle for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. When we started talking about the cell phone policy, we've had a cell phone policy for a number of years at the middle and the high school, and I would say that at the beginning of the year, it's come out strong, and then the efficacy of the policy would lose some steam. I've been to the high school, I've been to the middle school faculty meetings, and people, it's time. It's time that we have to put cell phones away. It's distracting students in their learning. They're just not engaged. They're worried about, who's Snapchatting them, who do they need to meet in the bathroom, texts from friends, family, and it's impacting instruction. Both Mr. McCurtain and Mr. Bourne and their assistant principals are on board supporting the teachers in the classroom. We also believe that strict enforcement at the beginning will lessen what we have to do, further down. Teachers are going to be held accountable, make sure that this continues in our buildings, and the administration is going to support the teachers in the classroom supporting cell phones away. Meaning, if a student takes their cell phone out, uses their cell phone, the teacher has an option. They can either handle it themselves in their classroom with a detention, an email home, or they can refer to the office, and the principal, assistant principal will come, remove the student, remove the cell phone, becomes a disciplinary action in the office, also with communication home. And if it continues with the same student, it's progressive discipline, because then it's not about the cell phone, it's about not following school rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Anybody else like to speak before we move on? Alrighty. First up is the reading and approval of records from our meeting on June 18th of last school year. After you get a chance, I'll be looking for a motion to approve in a second, or amend if needed.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Okay. Up next, report of the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Chris Basta.
Hi, everybody. Hope you had a great summer. It's great to be back, but on this side of the table, it's kind of a little different. And so this is my first presentation from this side of the table. We'll see how it goes. I might go back to presenting from up there. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I have a clicker, and we'll see.
Okay.
See what happens. So the first thing I have for you tonight is talking a little bit about our universal assessment tool that we're using this year. You might remember from last spring, we talked about the committee work that identified this tool for kindergarten through 6th grade as a universal assessment for literacy and math 3 times a year. So we are in the early stages of implementation right now. That's just a quick review of what we were hoping to accomplish by identifying a universal screener. It's required in grades K to 3 by DESE. We think it's best practice for us to bring it all the way up to grade 6 so that we have information about students' progress, the time they're with us from kindergarten to 6th grade, to help inform groupings, to help inform instruction also. There are districts that use iReady all the way through 8th grade or all the way through 12th grade. Right now, we're using it K to 6, and we will see how we do with our students and what the data tells us. Any questions about this particular slide? This is really just what the committee's goal was when they were looking for a screener. And then there's a little bit of information about iReady itself. You might remember last year we talked about, it's called a CAT, a computer adaptive test, which means there's a range of problems and questions and activities for each grade level. So your child's in 2nd grade, they're going to get the 2nd grade assessment for literacy. The questions will really start at the end of 1st grade and go all the way through to the end of like 3rd grade level. So that as a student is taking the test and answering questions, they're doing well, the questions get more challenging. And if they're getting a few incorrect or they're not doing so well, the questions get a little bit easier so that the test itself can pinpoint exactly where they are with that Massachusetts standard. So it's really good data for us to have about students and how we can support them in their classroom with literacy and math. So that's why it's called a computer adaptive test. The computer changes the test as the student's going from a bank of questions that are all within this band of grade ranges, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there is a link there for anyone who's interested. You can click on this link and get more information directly from the iReady website. So in kindergarten and 1st grade, we have tablets for the students to take the test on. 2nd grade to 6th grade, they'll be using their laptops, either the school laptops or the one-to-one laptops in 5 and 6. The assessments typically, for the average student, they say it takes about 45 minutes. Some students do it a little bit faster, some students take a little bit more time. The younger grades, the teachers will be breaking that down into smaller chunks because it saves your work, so they can come back the next day and finish, or later on in that afternoon and finish up. There was something else I was going to say about the time. This system also flags a student who seems to be rushing. So if Joey completes it in 10 minutes and everybody else took 40, the teacher will see a red flag really on their dashboard, and they can go slow Joey down, or afterwards they can say, we're going to do it again tomorrow or next week because it seems like you maybe rushed through. So it should be very helpful for the process. Principals are going to give, for the younger grades, principals will be giving schedules to the classroom teachers where there are limited laptops. For example, at Beaverbrook, where there are 2nd grade will be using the laptop carts that there are, but there are 8 sections of 2nd grade. The principals will be giving them a schedule of when they can use the carts. And then again, 5 and 6, they have one-to-one devices, so it's not an issue there. And it will be given 3 times a year. I will get back to that 3 times a year time frame in a little bit. We've already talked about that. What do we do with the information? Again, classroom teachers and the administration are able to use the information to form small groups for instruction. It can help teachers determine in a certain unit a certain standard that a child or a group of children are struggling with within that unit. They can pull that small group and it suggests what you can do to intervene with those students. It doesn't do any teaching for them, but it helps point them in the right direction, which is also great. But that data is also what our teachers will be using as sort of their first measure for students who need support from an interventionist, from a reading specialist, or from a tutor. So they would be, it's not the end all be all, but it is a really strong data point for us to help identify which students need more support than in the classroom. Any questions about that? Yes?
2 questions. Are the instructions English only? So for the kids who are coming in who might have a valid skill set but might not be able to read instructions in the primary, because it's not in their primary language, do we have capabilities there or no?
So we have capabilities. I do not have enough information right now to tell you, in all honesty, the extent of the capabilities. But I do know that Elizabeth Dupre, our director of our English Learner Education Department, separately, while this committee was doing its work, she identified using this with all L's.
Yep.
So there is the ability for us to reach students whose primary language is not English. I'm just not sure, is it every language for all of our students? I'm not sure about the details on that. But being able to work with our multilingual learners is part of the features that it has.
Okay, so that was part A. I
Okay.
now have a part B and a part C. Part B.
I'm surprised.
Shocker, really. So using the laptops and particularly the iPads, these are modalities that some of our youngest learners are very comfortable using. Are there, and this might be more a you question or not, are we using this to also find if there are discrepancies between what a child is able to achieve when given a device versus pen and paper tasks or being able to even present orally? Or are we
That-
waiting to see the first round of data to
I
see?
think I'll take a stab at this, Dr. Robbins. I think what you just said is true. I mean, this is so new for us. We've never used an online tool like this in these grades. We really need to roll it out and see how it goes. For sure, there are kids who test better on paper or orally than they do with something digital. In those cases, my thinking is this is one data point,
Yeah.
right? So if we have a student who really doesn't do well on their iReady assessment, but everything else that the teacher is doing with them shows that they're very capable, then that would make us wonder, is it the testing procedure? So I think it would give us more questions and we would look into it. What do you think?
Yep. So what I would just add to that is we'll certainly explore any accessibility features to just sort of minimize any barriers that are caused by students who might be at a disadvantage by using it on a tablet and so on. So that's something we'll certainly just explore to see if we can better support students. But I think your question makes a good point in that in that it just provides more data so that we can make comparisons between populations and see, are there students, do a significant number of our students really struggle when information is presented in a technological format? And just the one additional thing I would mention to that is that one of the most useful ways that we can use this data are for students who are under review for special education eligibility, because often we rely on nationally normed tests. And as we know, Massachusetts just well exceeds nation trends in education. So this provides us just more precise data for decision making.
Perfect.
Thank you. Was there a third question?
There was a part C, but this one's quick. Is the testing, you said 3 times a year, is that going to be aligned with the marking, somewhat loosely with marking periods, so teachers have the
No.
ability to see that? Okay.
No. So this testing is not directly related to progress reports. So it's all testing the same standards.
Yep.
So it is related, but teachers will not be using their iReady assessment data to inform report cards.
Perfect. Okay.
So the first testing window is September 15th to October 1st.
Wow. Fast.
Teachers will be, I think I'm getting ahead of a slide, but I'm answering the question fully. Teachers will be getting training on how to administer the test on September 9th. And then the window is September 15th to October 1st. And then on October 3rd, the iReady folks come back to prepare the teachers. What do you do now with the data? How do you interpret it? How do you print reports? How do you make groups? And what does the data mean about different students? So that's the training. It sort of bookends the administration in the fall. And then the second window is, I think, January 15th to February 1st. And then the third one, I'm going to say it's May 1st to May 15th, something like that. I think it's on another slide when we get to it. But so it doesn't align with report cards, but it is useful information for the teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Bossi, you started, so I just had, it was more about, and I think you kind of started to answer it. It was how fast do the teachers get the results to be able to implement anything?
Instantaneous, yeah.
At first, I thought it was one of those you got to wait for them to be like sent back to you, but as you
Yeah.
started to talk, I realized
Yeah,
that
no,
that
it
wasn't
happens
the case, so-
automatically.
Okay.
And so the last bullet on this page is after that testing window opens, our plan is for the Friday.
It's our testing window.
Yes,
It's
our
not an
test-
I-ready. It's not like
yes.
MCAS.
No, that's right. We
Okay.
set the testing window based on our calendar and our needs. So the selected window that we've chosen, when that closes, our plan is the first Friday afterwards to give families the parent report. We think we're going to be able to upload that into the parent portal and just send out an email that says, hey, check the parent portal. Your child's iReady data report is there. If not, we'll send them home by paper. And that is a picture of what the family report will look like. We already have, and if there's not enough, I'll add more information for families about this report, about iReady. This slideshow, obviously, will be on the website. Teachers will be able to answer questions if parents have them about the report. It's, again, it's not the end-all, be-all for where your child is and how they're doing. It's one piece of information, but it's a useful piece of information. And if anything, it helps us think of more questions about that child. What do we want to do to challenge them, or where do they need more support?
Couple questions. Does this information get reported at all to DESE? I know you said it's DESE required, but do they get any of this
They do not.
information? And is any of this information to be used, to Dr. Robbins' point about assessing whether someone needs additional support through like formal special education? Will any of this be used for funding sources to identify students before we go to funding sources? Is that expected to be aligned this year?
So I'm going to answer the beginning of that, and then I'm going to ask you what you mean by funding sources.
Yep.
But now I just told you that I'm going to ask you, so
Yep.
I'm preparing you so you can think about that. So when the teachers get the reports for their class, they'll be able to group students based on their strengths and weaknesses or areas for growth. And there may be some students who are presenting so low on a certain area that the teacher wants to try different interventions in the classroom to see how they respond. After a few cycles, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks of that, and the student's not responding, then the teacher, and when I say not responding, I mean not making significant progress. They might be making some progress, but not enough not to get where we want them to be at that point in the year. The teacher would then bring them to their school's student support team to say, here's Joe, I'm going to use Joey again, sorry to all the Joeys in the world. Here's Joey's iReady data from September. Here's how he's done on classroom assessments. Here's what I've observed when I'm working with him. Here are some concerns his parents have. And here are the things I've tried. And he's still not making progress with fluency in reading. So the team would then ask questions, make some suggestions, and typically then there's another cycle where the teacher is implementing the strategies from the team. And then at that point, we might bring in the reading specialist or a reading tutor to give small group intervention outside of the classroom. And after another cycle, if they're still not making progress, and this is all by DESE and national research and guidelines, the MTSS process or RTI, then it would get to the point where we would have an eligibility meeting to determine should we evaluate the student, not an eligibility, sorry. We would have an initial meeting with our special education team to determine should we evaluate this student and then determine whether they're eligible or not.
Okay.
So it's a really long process. iReady would be at the very beginning to help us get a baseline for that student.
And that evaluation, that would drive whether a student is placed on an IEP. is that
Right,
correct?
that
Which is,
evaluation all the way at the end.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
there may be circumstances where a student is performing so far below that we might expedite that process, but we still need to go through the process.
Gotcha, okay.
How'd I do?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
And then my funding question
Yeah.
was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because chapter 70 is a lot. I thought that our funding sources was based on certain demographic of students with higher needs. And higher needs can be students on, I always forget if it's IEP or 504s, or
IEP.
maybe it's both. So none of the data that we're receiving now is going to impact us when we report out this fall.
No.
We are looking to, this is primary driver to assist the students and the educators in providing the best services. Nothing's going to change anything from a funding source. However, it could be a data point in the future to ensure that students have the best plan in place.
Correct.
Okay.
This is internal data.
Yep.
It doesn't get reported out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Now, I know you said that September 9th, the teachers are having a PE day, or
Mhm.
PD day to learn. Do they get extra planning time at all to assess any of these reports, or is?
So, no, that's the short answer. So each building is slightly different, but teachers as grade levels have common planning time already built into their weekly schedule. This October 3rd, the second PD,
Yep.
where they'll be working with iReady, they will be looking at their data and analyzing it together.
Okay.
Right? And then the plan going forward, it's a great question. The plan going forward is for the winter benchmark, there's another half day. Somebody did a really good job of making the PD calendar. I don't know who that was. That there's another PD day lined up with when that window closes, so they'll use that time
Perfect.
to analyze. And then the same thing, not the same thing. Later in the year, in May, they don't need to do that analysis. It's really for end of the year, how did our students do? And then this is data for the beginning of the next year. So they will have time, once we get through this training process, we are giving them time to do that. Let's look at the reports and make our groups and talk about what we're gonna do next.
Perfect.
And they can also use their CPT time. And there's the testing window that I talked about, fall, winter, and spring. I already gave you those dates. And you've already asked questions. Are there any other questions?
I have one, Dr. Basta.
Yes, sir.
I was waiting for the slide.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's right. Because it was about. I saw it was in there. I was just waiting for that. So, the spring window in May. I don't know MCAS dates, right? But are we risking testing fatigue by having like these? I don't know, like so close to each other, right? I mean, it doesn't matter for K through 2. I understand that. Like it's
Right.
only one for K through 2. But for 3 through 6, and especially 5th has science MCAS thrown in there as well. At a certain point, students, are parents gonna put up their hands and say whatever? So that's all.
Right. I'm potentially,
Yeah.
I think it's similar to the answer to Heidi's question that it's so early for us that
Yep.
we need to
Yeah.
play it out and see how it goes and take feedback from students and families and teachers to make any decisions about how next year looks. I can say that this is new to Abington. It's not new to many, many other districts near us. Typically, districts near us are using iReady or another computer adaptive test called STAR. So it happens. It doesn't mean it's great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that there's not impact on students.
Yeah.
So
I-
it is something we'll
I
pay
guess
attention
5th
to.
through 6, and I think Woodsdale might have enough laptops per
Yeah.
kid. But like, if the case may be, they could plan the one day, right? 'Cause it's a 45-minute.
Yep.
So they could plan that one day, I guess, around that K through 2. They have to share, but they don't have to worry about the MCAS
Right.
window. So,
Right.
all right.
Thank you. Good question. Anyone else?
I had one more question. Will the students have access? I guess it depends a little bit as to how the parents get delivered, whether it's via Aspen, but those reports, will they be in the students' hands ever, or is it primarily just a parental?
Our plan right now doesn't include that, but maybe in grades 5 and 6 it would make sense. I can talk from experience as a parent. When my kids went through late elementary and middle school, the test that was used in Connecticut was the NWEA MAP test. And the students did get to see the report, and you could have conversations at home, and the teacher had conversations about progress. Once you've done it for a year, you have something to compare it to. Where should you be this year based on how you did last year? So there are some valuable conversations that you can have. We haven't discussed yet whether any of our teachers would be doing that with students. Right now, it's a report for families.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. That's it for my first item. Second item is professional development. Today, our preschool to 12th grade teachers started the year with a full group professional development session in the auditorium here at the middle high school. The PD was focused on universal design for learning, which is commonly referred to as UDL. Essentially, it means leveling the playing field so that your initial instruction and any of the activities or assessments that you have are accessible for all students. So a great example that the presenter showed was taking a Rubik's Cube and saying how for most people in the general population it's a fun game or a really frustrating game, if you're me. But if you're colorblind or completely blind, you can't use a Rubik's Cube. So if they took the Rubik's Cube and they got rid of all the colors and it's white and it's got Braille markings for matching it up, that really helps somebody who is visually impaired and can read Braille, but it doesn't help anyone who is visually impaired and can't read Braille. It doesn't help the colorblind person, and it might not be that easy for someone who has no visual impairment because now all the color's gone, it's just white. So then they showed a third option where there were still different colors and each color also had a different raised shape on it. So triangles, circles, X's, and that would be a universally accessible version of a Rubik's Cube. So thinking that way about what we're doing in classrooms, that's really what the focus of today's professional development was. By all accounts, it was very well received by the teachers, and there were lots of resources and suggestions for how teachers can continue doing this work in their classrooms, because most of our teachers are already trying to reach all the kids in their room. How do they adapt for the different learners they have every year? They're all trying that already, and we appreciate that, and that's we're trying to help them have more tools in their toolkit for how to do that. So we'll continue to look at UDL throughout the course of the year as part of our professional growth. And then each building will also be focusing throughout the year on different topics related to their unique situation at their grade level or in their building. November 5th this year will be our differentiated PD, like we did last year, called Abington Innovates. This year it's on Election Day, no school for students, half day for teachers from 8 to 11:30. Again, Abington Innovates will be on November 5th. You might remember we have 15 to 20 different options during 3 sessions. Teachers basically choose their own adventure to attend sessions that make sense for them based on their interests and their needs to improve outcomes for all students. So more information will be forthcoming as we get closer to Abington Innovates. Any questions about professional development? No. It kind of leads me into the quick update on the green calendar. You'll be getting them this week if you haven't gotten one already. And kudos to Mrs. Gaylor, who did so much work to get this ready for us this year. The printers did a great job for us, except there is one typo on here. Under parent conferences and open houses, under the high school where it says AHS Grade 8 Family Night, it says November 11th. That is actually November 7th. So it is a pretty small group who would be impacted by that correction, so we're not reprinting the calendars and sending them out. We will It'll be on our website that there's that correction. It will be in the October dates to remember in the school committee agenda, and then also the high school typically sends out an invitation to grade 8 parents. So we're confident we can make sure everyone gets that date, also because we won't be in school on November 11th
Yeah.
because it's Veterans Day.
I'm just going to give a plug too, because I'm pretty sure this is the case. The one that's online is correct.
Yes.
November 7th. So the calendar online over the last couple of years is the one we had last, like if you looked at it, we've developed, Dr. Boss has developed it to include almost all this information on the bottom as well. It's like, so it's a regular 8.5 by 11, but it has a lot of the same information on there as well. So these are great. I know everybody loves them, but if you need it too, it's in a regular format on the website still. The district calendar has that and has the correct date for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else about the calendar? No? My next item is summer curriculum writing. As we do every summer, we have a group of faculty members who take time during the summer to work on curriculum updates for their department or for their grade level. Some of the areas that were touched on this summer include grades 9 to 12 art, grades 3 and 4 music, 9 through 12 math, chemistry at the high school, K to 4 English learner education, K to 12 wellness, grades 5 through 8 social emotional learning, 7 to 12 world language, and preschool to 12 mental health. All of the work that the teachers and other certified staff did this summer is to further align the units and lessons and curriculum documents that we have with the Massachusetts state frameworks. Does anybody have any questions about that? No offense, it's nice when there are no questions on some things. It's kind of surprising, it's refreshing.
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just kidding.
And now Dr. Robbins. My last item is something that I share every year with Dr. Robbins. So he's going to switch our slideshow. We're moving on to our summer school recap. There we go. Sweet. Thank you. So we typically have our general education summer programming that I'll be talking about, and then Dr. Robbins will talk about our extended school year program for students with IEPs. I'm not going to read through what's up there, but I'm going to start talking about it. So for the last few years, you might remember through our COVID relief money from the federal government that was called the ESSER grants, our summer programming was free for students. We were able to fully fund the teacher and paraprofessional salaries and transportation for our summer programming through the ESSER grants. This year, we returned to our pre-COVID practice of charging families for summer school that was not part of an IEP requirement. Despite inviting many students at the high school level who required summer programming for credit recovery or for promotion, and reaching out to families numerous times, we did not have enough students enroll this summer to run the program. We believe most of the students participated in other virtual summer programs for credit recovery from surrounding districts. For example, Rockland, I believe, they charged $150. I think that was the cost, somewhere around there, for a credit recovery algebra class. So we're just our program online. So our program just couldn't compete with that, and so we were not able to run that high school summer academy this summer. And then our middle school program did run, however, with one teacher and one paraprofessional, as well as our director of summer programming who oversaw all of the programs that were going on this summer, including ESY. For students in grades 7 and 8, there were 14 students, and there were some students from Holbrook who joined us for that. So we're expecting, we're not expecting. We will be doing research and working with the administration of both the high school and the middle school to start planning for next summer and thinking about what can we offer and what does it make sense for us to instead direct families to other options in the area. Any questions about summer programming?
I do. Just one observation. So forgive me for being skeptical of virtual programs, but the cheatability factor is always my biggest concern. So do we do any checking to make sure that the kids actually did their own work and learned something? Is there anything that we do? And for the schools that offer the virtual programs, do they verify or vet? Is there any kind of checking on this?
I'm going to give you the best answer I can, which is I don't know specifically. I'm going to say that if we were offering a virtual math program for credit recovery, we would have to certify to people from Hingham or from anywhere else. We would have to say, we're standing by this. We're saying this child attended, they completed everything that they needed to complete. Here is their verification of their credit. So I believe it's incumbent on the district to do that because this is all part of graduation requirements and they answer to DESE also. I can't tell you exactly what they do or how they do it.
So we don't know if the kids come in and do it virtually and are monitored. There are adults in the room while they're doing their work, or they do everything from home with mom and dad maybe sitting right with them typing.
Right.
Okay.
Can I just?
Yes.
We didn't expect our summer school to not run this year.
Yeah.
We're actually pretty surprised about that. And so we had a number of students that needed those credits to move on. We did look at other options of local school districts and provided that information. As Chris said, we plan this year with a longer runway to work with, actually collaborate with our neighboring districts. So we do have input into the program that we're going to be referring our students to. And I've had some preliminary conversations with neighboring districts. What's the best way to do that? How do we do that? How do we oversee it? What's the, how good is the program? Is it as good as what we would be doing here? So I do feel like this summer was a bit of an anomaly and like, oh my God, we don't have enough kids for a program.
Yep.
And we had students already having signed up for other programs without us encouraging them to. So I think it's with a longer runway, we have more planning time.
Yeah. Nope, and it was just an observation question.
Yep.
You guys are awesome. So I know that just always something, I'm proud of what we do in our schools, and I just want to make sure.
Yep.
And I'm sure you were already thinking that anyways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask the cost differential? What were we charging?
275?
I think so.
I think it was 250? Ish, 250? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And that's a fee that hadn't gone up in many, many years.
Right.
That was-
I have a few questions. Weird, I know. Do you know offhand how many students were suggested to take either at the high school or the middle school level? I know we only had 14 who took advantage, or 15, I guess, but do you have a rough idea as to how many?
I
No.
don't have that
Okay.
number.
That's
Do either
fine.
of you? How many students were recommended for summer school? I don't know, but I can find out.
Okay. And I'm curious if the driving factor was the financial component in their decision not to, or whether it was I can get away, to Danielle's point, with doing something a little bit easier because Abington has a more rigorous program. Maybe they've attended in the past or heard words. So I'm curious whether it is the financial component that made them turn this down or whether it was the format. So just something to think about. And then the third piece here, and I don't know how many of these people are identified in like an at-risk population, but do we have a way to follow to see how they're doing this year to assess whether there's a significant impact for us not having them here in Abington over the summer? Is there a way that we can follow up on these students?
So I think typically our history has been, unfortunately, the same students don't do well year after year. And so the guidance department at the high school is absolutely following those students, and really ensuring that they will have enough credits to graduate, that they will fulfill the MCAS requirement to graduate. So that's something that absolutely is tracked, maybe not directly to what program they went to in the summer, but what is their achievement level this year. And just as a second part of your first question, or your second question around transportation versus fee, transportation, we didn't offer transportation pre-COVID, and that was the largest number of voices where we don't have a way to get to summer school, and we just haven't had a way to pay for a bus use those resources to bring a small number of students to a summer program that's a replication of what they already had as a program during the school year and weren't successful in.
Do you know how, either one of you, do you know how the towns that offer online programs, like what's their protocol to be certified by DESE, that what they're doing, like to Danielle's point, right? Like, I guess there's some things you can't, I mean, I guess they had to have been given the okay to have these programs to begin with the background nature of these kids could be doing whatever on the side as they're doing it. Or maybe it's got to be completed in that moment they're on camera and whatever. I'm like taking away any project, but I guess the how that those districts that offer a remote program, and if we did, we'd have to, like, how do they go about certifying to DESE that they're doing what they need to do? The students are in fact doing what they need to do.
So there isn't necessarily direct certification to DESE. There is an obligation on the part of the school department to follow the state curriculum, state standards, not state curriculum, state standards. So they have that obligation. If they're giving the credits, they need to do that. So I think neither Chris nor I have the details about how those programs work this year. I can assure you that we will be back in the spring and sharing our summer program and what that's going to look like moving forward.
Okay.
I think but all of the points that you bring up about the problems with online learning, to Danielle's point, I've talked to a number of teachers that work actually in online schools, and they have really strict guidelines around instruction. The only difference is that they're sitting there, I'm sitting here, the camera has to be wide, I have to see who's in your room, I have to see what's on your desk, and then there's others that aren't like that. Mm-hmm. So we are gonna do some homework and make sure that whatever program we use in the summer fulfills our obligation to make sure our students are getting what they need.
All right, great, thank you.
I think that's it for me. Dr. Robbins.
Dr. Robbins.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for having me. So I'm up here to share just a few notes about our extended school year, which ran for the 4 weeks of July. From the perspective of myself and all the staff who were involved, it was another positive summer. I'm just going to share some of the details about it. So just a reminder as to why the program exists at all. So it's a federal special education mandate, and there are really two objectives to it. So it's identifying students who have disabilities who, because of their disability, are uniquely vulnerable to regression over the summer months. Those students are considered at a double disadvantage for the start of the school year. One of which is because they have a disability to begin with, so the nature of what they're asked to do at the start of the year is going to be a challenge. But then the second part of it is that they've regressed in their skills over the 11 weeks of summer. So that the time, so they're requiring significantly more catch-up at the start of the year. So their skills may be weaker at the start of the year, and they have a disability to begin with. So these programs exist to just sort of support those students. So when the year starts, they're just in a better situated to be successful. In addition to serving that purpose, within our district, it also serves a number of a lot of really positive strategic purposes for individual students. For example, this past summer, we had a number of students who had previously attended an alternative special education placement outside of our district who were able to transition back to our district during the summer program. This allowed, in a number of cases, this allowed the teacher who was going to be working with the student in the fall to get to know the student in sort of just a smaller, quieter setting, so that when more students are around in the fall, they would be prepared to work with them. Additionally, it allows us to trial a number of different educational groupings. There are some students who are educated in what we call the most restrictive arrangements, which just means settings with other students with disabilities with really small staff to student ratios. The idea is that we try to get all of our students with disabilities to perform in really typical circumstances, which means with just sort of a large number of peers with the least number of supports as possible, because that allows them to grow their independent skills. So there are some times over the summer, and there are many cases within this past summer, where we'll trial students in less restrictive experiences to make sure that they're ready for it in the fall. Additionally, we also just try to make sure to make it fun. A lot of our teachers will make use of a lot of fun projects to engage students, and when we involve the students in field trips, such as to the library, and we've done timber lanes as well. In terms of the overall staff and students, I'm just going to go through those numbers with you. But what I will mention, just interestingly, is in terms of staffing. What is interesting, and I think a very positive aspect of the summer is all the staff that we have are either immediate teaching and paraprofessional staff within Abington or Abington graduates. So it's nice to have this community of just Abington folks supporting Abington students. Additionally, a really high number of our staff members are folks who have worked in the summer in the past. And this just sort of levels up the quality of instruction we can provide, because they know what it's like, what to expect, and just sort of, I guess, on a subconscious basis over the course of the year, they're kind of you're always planning ahead. So a lot of folks who are serving this program are just well equipped to be there in the summer. I think overall we just kind of achieved a really nice vibe. Everyone was pretty pleasant and had a nice experience, even though they were having to do school over the summer. So just some details here. In terms of overall teaching staff, these are the staff members leading the room. There are 26. In terms of overall support staff, these are paraprofessional staffs who support the teacher in their work with students. There are 27. The grade level served, and this is a change this year, was from pre-K to grade 10. For the past several years, we've served grades pre-K through grade 8. But we always have to make determinations on an individual basis, and we just happen to have a cohort of students in grades 9 and grade 10 who needed summer programming, so we made that available to them this summer. What determines what instruction we provide? It's for each student, we always incorporate their IEP goals and objectives, which is essentially the individual goal they're working on. Additionally, in addition to their individual goals, the approach we take is to prioritize ELA and math skills, because we regard those as some of the most primary skills in the educational process. And as I mentioned earlier, we try to prevent regression, so we try to review what they learned during the previous year and preview what they're about to learn, with the idea that they'll just be best situated to perform in the fall. In terms of student participation, we had 113 overall students, and 128 were eligible. And so for those students who did not attend, they received direct emails from me personally, just to check in to make sure that they've got the message. And in most cases, the students who don't attend are those at the secondary level. So these are students who have a lot of other summer options available to them, or they're students who've just attended many summers and the parents will just want to give them a break. Just a reminder on the duration of the program, it's 3 hours and 45 minutes a day, 4 days a week for 4 weeks in total. And we do offer transportation to select students, and those students, the availability of transportation has been decided by the IEP team, so it's IEP grid dependent. So those are the details of the summer program. Can I answer questions for anyone?
Just a comment, if I may. The numbers that you serve every summer continue to blow me away. Someone who's very familiar with the ESY process, to see that many number of families be invited and attend. It's just mind-blowing. It means that there's so much that's going well and going right, and the word is spread, and people are making use of it. So huge thanks to you and your staff, because those numbers are extraordinary for a summer program.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. And we try to work with families. Like we have some examples of students who may participate in another summer camp for a week, but then will join us for 3. So we try to just make it accessible. And
Hand up here. No, I was gonna say, Dr. Robbins, I was at least 10 years, maybe 11. I lost track of having my family be part of this. Like, I can't say enough good things about it too. Is that 113 out of 128? Is that a usual participation rate, or is that higher? That feels really high, but maybe it's just the way that, maybe it's always that way. I just don't remember. That just seems like that's an incredible participation rate for summer in my mind.
Yeah, and I can give a few details about that. So I would say, while I don't have the exact figures, over the past 3 or 4 years, especially since COVID, I would say our attendance rate is similar to that. And some of the factors that might lead to such a high participation rate are that we've definitely, as a department, really reviewed the criteria for being eligible. So to make sure that we were offering the service to those students who need it, but only those students who need it. It wasn't so much of a just something that's a giveaway, because we just want to make sure if we're running the program, it's for kids who truly need it, so that we can take our resources and get the best effect for students. So we've been pretty strategic about that. And also just, I think just with each year, that we're getting just more aware of what's effective for reaching families. So, at first it was, instead of a paper sign-up copy, we switched to online. Instead of just an online sign-up, if anyone didn't respond, we do a personal message to them. So I think that's what's led to it. And as mentioned earlier too, we have a handful of students who aren't there for the full 4 weeks, but we still can work around their schedule so that they can be there, a couple of weeks and still get some benefit.
Yeah, my family's one of those for that.
Right.
So, yeah. Right. And thank you to the 53 staff members that give up their mornings for a month in the summer as well to come in and do it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. They definitely, it's a nice community here and just make it a nice time for kids. So. All right. And I'll just move on to the other agenda item. So one more thing I've just got for the committee is that we received a number of requests for home education programs for the 2024 and 25 school year. So these are parents who seek to provide the education for their children within their home, based on our Massachusetts state curriculum frameworks. So all of the applicants that you have a list of in front of you have submitted complete applications, and I've reviewed each application to make sure that the applicant has proposed a reasonable and rigorous curriculum for their children. So I turn it over to the committee to see if you would endorse approval for their home education program.
Dr. Holmes, I just have one question. It's more clerical than anything, just in case you need it for something. One of the grades is missing from one of the students, at least on the ones that we have. If you need it, I just want to make you aware of it. It's not going to affect anything for me anyway tonight. But if it needs to be added for any kind of things you have to submit, I just wanted to make you aware of it.
Oh, thanks for bringing that to my attention.
I actually did have a question about that too, because are these grades, as we have a couple of kids who same date of birth who are reflecting pretty different grades on here. Is this, I just didn't, I think it's a clerical thing.
Yeah,
But I did have some question marks here.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely take another review of that.
I'm not as concerned. I don't want to keep anyone from being able to attend the homeschool. It was just, there are some things on here that were standing out.
No, you're right, yeah. I don't know what your guidance on this. To Heidi's point, I don't want to delay anything either, but
What is your sense? Is it the name or the grade and the family and the name that's important for approval?
I would say it's the name of the student, because like I said, each of their each of their applications have been reviewed.
Okay.
It's just that essentially so essentially from my point of view, what I do is review the applicants, and then just in our office, our admin, the information is then put on a cover sheet and shared with our administrative assistant, who kind of compiles the document. So we've ensured that all of these students are.
Okay.
So maybe the motion is as amended.
Yeah,
Alright.
as amendments get made to, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm,
To reflect
Yeah,
the
just
accurate grade.
typos
Is it
what
the
I was trying to
grade
do.
that we're determining them to be in, or are they hitting checkpoints along the way? I mean, these are very similar names to what we see. I trust that these families and you are working together, and these kids are getting a great education. I just legally don't want to be like, hey, this is.
Right.
So, yeah.
My recommendation would be to approve this list. We'll provide an updated list in the September school
For the
committee.
correct grades.
With all the correct.
or data bursts,
and
whichever one's
grades.
off. Okay,
Yep.
all right, that's fine.
Perfect.
That makes sense.
I'm
So-
okay with that.
I'll look for a motion to approve the list of recommended home education programs for this school year as recommended by Dr. Robbins to be amended or checked for date of birth and grade.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. Report of the superintendent, Dr. Michella.
Still sounds kind of weird, but thank you. I just want to again thank the committee and the community for the faith that you've put in me to be the next superintendent of schools. It's been a great last 2 months. We've had, I think, very good opening with our staff yesterday and professional development today, and you'll hear some more information in the back to school report. I just want I talked a little bit about the cell phone policy at the beginning of the meeting. I just want to go over a couple points and answer questions that people might have. As I said, the cell phone policies have been in the middle school and high school handbook for a number of years. They haven't been strictly enforced, is probably the best way, across all classrooms. And you can't, I was going to say open a newspaper. I'm not sure any of us open newspapers. You can't click on a link and go to a news site that it's not talking about the effects of cell phones to our young people. And also, in the last couple of weeks, we've heard of more and more, after we made this decision, more and more districts that are going the same way with restricting cell phone use. So it's been a policy that we've had I'll also mention through my entry planning meetings with people, which I would like people to email and call and set up more appointments to meet with me to talk about your thoughts in the schools. But through the meetings that I had this summer, every single meeting I had, they talked about cell phones in our schools. So I contacted Matt and Jonathan and said, where are we? And we all decided that this is the time. And this is the time to, across all of our classrooms at the middle and the high school, to limit or eliminate any cell phone use. And I just want to quote the letter that went home from the middle and high school, because I think this says it all. We want our students to experience and appreciate the benefit of having their sustained and undivided attention to the important academic work and growth that happens in our classrooms. That's the root of this. We've just seen our students be too distracted, whether it's social media notifications, text messages from friends. Our students need to be focused on the academic work that happens in the classroom. So we purchased, I'm calling them cell phone hotels. They're a box that have 32 or 36 slots that a student can put their cell phone in when they come into the classroom. Students can put their cell phone there, so students can leave their cell phones in their backpack. Students can leave their cell phones in their pocket. What they can't be is on the desk or in their hands. That's where the line is. We're not saying they have to be in a locker, they have to be in a backpack. They just can't be being used in class or during class. The middle school and the high school have a little tiny difference in their policies, in their procedures around this, and I actually think it makes sense. In the middle school, it's no cell phones, period. From when they walk in till when they leave. At the high school, there's no cell phones during academic times. So there is cell phone use allowed during passing period and during lunchtime. Those are the 2 times. That's it. And like I said, we met with, I was in faculty meetings yesterday, and teachers are on board, administrators are on board, staff members are on board. It's going to take an effort of all the adults in the building to make this successful. Are there questions?
If you want to ask a question, I'm just going to ask you to go to the podium and state your name and address, please. Sure, that's okay.
Stephen Placa, 176. How about the iPhone watches?
176 what? I'm sorry.
176 Chapel.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. How are we going to monitor the smart watches that are as equal as a distraction as the phone?
Thank you for asking that. We talked about that, and that smartwatches are also a concern. We thought that we should focus on cell phones and earbuds right now, and identify individual students if their watches become a distraction. My hope is that because Danielle's not texting me, she doesn't have her phone to text me to distract me on my watch. I'm hoping that becomes the norm. If we do find that smartwatches become a distraction as well, then it's within our policy, we can address it. But we really felt let's hit it hard with the two biggest distractions: the earbuds and the phones.
Can I ask a quick question on
Sure.
the smartphones? It seems to be more of a trend that's gaining popularity with the younger students. I do see some high school students with them on. Super easy. Again, I feel like cheating is my theme for tonight. Super easy to cheat on everything. So even though we might not be asking them to turn them in or not wear them, are our teachers making them take them off during assessments?
That hasn't been the direction that I've heard. I will make sure that Mr. McCurtain and Mr. Bourne mention that to teachers to make sure that they're aware of that and to keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Dr. Michelle, the only thing, I mentioned this to you already, but I'm just going to, we know it's the biggest problem, the 2 schools mentioned, right? But we want to make sure it's communicated on down. I'm going to knock on wood and say it's not too much of an issue at Beaverbrook. But I have heard things where 4th graders at times would use them at Woodsdale. So if we can just make sure that they're fully aware and compliant, because it's not going to do any good if all of a sudden our 4th graders are using them at times. So
I've spoken with Ms. Baresi, and if that was a practice, she was going to make sure that that was communicated, that will not be a reward practice at Woodsdale.
thank you.
I had just 2 more quick
Sure.
comments, if that's okay. From the teacher's perspective, so important for me that the staff be 100% supported by admin from day one. I know that you guys will take care of that.
Can I?
For-
May I?
Yeah,
So that was discussed at faculty meetings yesterday, and a flow chart was developed for the teachers. If this happens, if this happens, here are your choices. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what you can do. And I can promise you that the administration is going to support teachers in this.
Okay.
And also hold adults accountable if students are being allowed to use their
Correct.
cell phones in their classrooms.
yep, that was one of my other points. And then just the last other piece from experience, the cell phones being allowed in their pockets end up in their hands and on their desks inevitably. So if the teacher wants all of the phones, if they personally in that particular classroom, it's their policy, or they want it to be their
Procedures in
policy,
their classroom.
that the kids put their phones, all of them, in the hotel. Do the students comply?
So
Will we expect the students per teacher request in that particular classroom to put it in the box and not keep it in their pockets?
that could be what is expected in a particular classroom. The conversations that I heard over the last 2 years the last 2 days have been that the cell phones cannot be in a student's hand. They need to be in a bag, they need to be in a pocket, they need to be in the hotel. And I mean, I think it's also fair to say, we're gonna try this, and if we have to make some adaptations to make sure that to help students comply more readily, then we'll do that. We're gonna start off super strong and continue. This is not going away. And so I would anticipate that there will be a month from now some tweaks done at the middle school and the high school to help students with compliance.
And every year, I know it's a work in progress, every year will get better, and eventually, it won't even be a thing. The kids
Yep.
will be so used to it, they won't remember when they could use them in the
Yep.
classrooms. Last piece, I feel like something was said about if the student has it out, the teacher is going to take it away. And I do have some concerns, worries about teachers being responsible for the kid's phone. Could that phone, if the student doesn't comply per a request of the teacher, could the phone go to the office instead of the teacher so that the teacher doesn't own that responsibility?
Yes, so it could go in the hotel, or it could also be a referral to the office. And part of the cell phone flow chart is that the teacher has an option. And part of this was the discussions with the teachers, or some teachers are really comfortable having that conversation with students. Some others aren't that comfortable, and also they want to have the kind of authority within their classroom to make the decision about the phone. Some want to call the office. Mr. Bourne said, yes, you can do it either way, we will support you. And but it has to, if your phone comes out, it has to be a detention from your classroom, and it will be a detention if they come to us.
Last thing that I'll offer for anybody who's worried about it, I hesitated to implement it in my own classroom. I do require that my students put them in, it's a slightly different setup, but I call it putting their cell phones in their sleeping bags. So the cell phones go in the sleeping bags when they come into my class, they take a little nap, phones get a little rest, and then they pick up their cell phones from their sleeping bags when they leave. And there was a little resistance at first, but it wasn't even a thing. So for anybody who's worried, it's truly not a big deal. It is amazing in the classroom to not have them, and I'm so excited for this.
My only other question, I agree. The substitute teachers,
Yep.
do we have things on site prepared, ready? Because we all know that there are certain substitutes who are covering classes that they might not be asked to teach the particular information. It might just have to be, and that is one particular time when kids got very used to pulling out a phone and scrolling. What do we have plans in place for that?
Mr. McCartan and Mr. Bourne talked about that yesterday also, that substitutes, that they won't get a free pass on this. If a student is in instructional time, they're not going to have their cell phones. And if lessons need to be, if someone didn't leave a lesson or lesson plan, then something will be developed by the office. There'll be alternative plans, but cell phones will not be an option during instructional time. Or during bridge block at the high school, which was also a question. That's an instructional time, it's within our instructional day, and they will not be allowed during bridge block.
And does this mean, so for after-school activities, are they going to be making more announcements? I know a lot of coaches and tutors, things like that, they're used to just firing off a text, hey, y'all, practice is being moved or whatever.
We will provide whatever communication needs to happen. That was happening via text. I'll also say that if there's an emergency and you have to get in touch with your child, you can call the main offices. They will make sure that the message gets to the student. If you want a call back, we have phones in both offices that students can use. So that's not, that won't be an issue. I mean, it might be an issue, but that's how you can communicate with your child. And we'll make sure that any announcements that need to be made by coaches or advisors are also done.
And just so you know, these questions are not ones that I am concerned about, but just so
No, I
everyone
appreciate
knows
the
that there's
questions.
been a lot of thought. Nothing's ever going to come off perfect. There's going to be hiccups, but I think this is really very much in the best interest of our students, our staff, just everyone in general.
And as I said, it's new for us. I would imagine over the next couple of weeks, there'll be some tweaks that are done in both buildings. But this is where we're going.
Cool.
Thank you.
Back to school. So, like I said, I'm thrilled and excited and honored to be the superintendent of schools. And tomorrow's our big back to school day, grades 1 through 12. I'm going to thank a bunch of people, and it feels okay that I'm going to step on Sarah's toes a little bit because the former superintendent stepped on mine for like 16 years, and it would say, I'm sorry, I'm going to step on Felicia's toes. So, but I have to thank a number of people that made us get to tomorrow. So our central office staff, Jason Lynn in the maintenance department, our head custodians and all our summer crews, our administrative assistants, our technology department, our transportation office, and you'll hear a little more about buses and bus tags, our food service director and the food service staff, the school administrators, DPW, Abington Police, Abington Fire, and the building department. And if it wasn't for all of those people and the work that they did this summer, we wouldn't be in such good shape to start school tomorrow. We'll be welcoming almost 2,000 students tomorrow and another 200 on Tuesday. So thank you to all of those people. One of the things I do want to remind people of is on Tuesday, the Tuesday after Labor Day, it's a state election, and it's also the first day for kindergarten. So the Beaverbrook is where the elections take place, and it's also where kindergarten is. So that's going to be a busy place on Tuesday, and I just wanted to suggest to residents, or not suggest to residents, but let residents know that drop-off for Beaverbrook starts at about 8:30, and with the first day of kindergarten, we anticipate that'll be over about 9:30, and in the afternoon, it's about 2:30 to 3:45 is a really tough time at the Beaverbrook. So just so you know that. Our buses will be rolling tomorrow morning, starting about 6:40, picking up students at about 6:40. Our bus routes for the high school, for high school and middle school, our start times got moved up a little bit due to the length of some of our routes that Sarah will be talking about. We are just about fully staffed. We have a few paraprofessional positions that are still open, but our classroom teachers were fully staffed, and we have a great group of new employees. We had an orientation with new teachers last week, and we're very excited about what they're going to bring to the table. I also have one other really exciting announcement, and I need to thank our Director of Technology, Rich Bykowski. On July 1st, we kicked off a new website, and included in that website, as we've promised, is the ability to send texts and voice messages. So I am anticipating tomorrow afternoon, Sarah or the building principals will be sending out their first voice and text call that says bus 82 is going to be late because the first day our buses are always running late. So you can anticipate that. But I've also asked that as our test, we always have fire drills in the first week of school. And after our fire drills at each building, the principal is going to practice how to send out the text and how to send out the voice call and use our website and do our post-incident email that says we had a fire drill today and via text and voice. So we're really excited about that. And I just, again, really want to thank Rich Bykowski for all the work he did, and also to Eileen Walls, who helps us populate our website. She's our webmaster, and she did a lot of work to get us up and running. I'll also say that our website still has some information that needs to be populated in our app. And so Rich has really been working on that. There's also an app that goes along with the website that it's online. You can get the app through the app stores or the Google Play stores, but it's not fully 100% functional to the place that we want it to be. And that's something that Rich will be working through over the coming months. That's what I had. Are there any questions about tomorrow?
I had two quick ones.
Yes.
So one, I think it's more, I'm just asking for you to clarify. Tuesday, the election does not interfere with, so there's no students in the same gymnasium as the election is taking place during the day, correct?
Thank you. So I'll talk a second about safety measures that we've put in place. We've worked very closely with the Abington Police Department and with the town clerk's office to ensure that there's no access from the gym areas into the Beaverbrook Elementary School. The doors from the gym into the cafeteria are locked, and there'll be an adult or a police officer stationed there all day that students are in school.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
And one more. This is more secondhand on my part, so I just figured I would ask, as Heidi was mentioning earlier, just trying to get the questions out there that we've seen to a
Yep.
point. There was some back and forth, give and take about teachers asking for school supplies. I think it's more focused on cleaning supplies. I didn't get the entire gist of the conversation, but I think that's what it was about, because I know at times they have asked to help stock their rooms and stuff like that, and then I had a parent say to me, oh, the teacher told me that they are not supposed to ask that anymore.
Sure.
I guess it's more, I'm just asking you to help clarify it as you know it anyway.
I would love to.
All right, thank you.
So this is a item, school supplies, that I think it has morphed over the years to what we have been asking in the past and asking parents for, and what I feel as though is a school's obligation. So, for example, it actually kind of breaks my heart watching our students walk in with huge Target bags with paper towels and Clorox wipes, when really I want them to be walking in with their backpacks and their lunchbox and their lunchboxes. So the school department will and has provided Kleenex, cleaning supplies. We're actually not supposed to use Clorox wipes, so that's it. We don't fight it, but it's not. We'll provide Kleenex. We'll provide, do we want our students to be riding on the bus with scissors? Kids who don't know how to use scissors, and then we're asking them to ride on the bus with scissors. So we said, well, we don't want you to ask parents for those things. Of course, students should have pencils and a box of crayons and markers and an eraser and a glue stick, but not 24 glue sticks, a glue stick for their child. So that was the ask, and it was out of a sense of commitment to what a public school should provide versus what parents need to provide. Now, there's always going to be asks from parents or requests from parents, but I just felt like, let's let school get started. We'll provide you what you need. And then if there's special things that you need during the year to do a special project, then maybe that's when you're able to reach out to the parents.
Okay, thank you.
It was never meant to cause any angst. It was really, it was supposed to help alleviate some angst.
I don't know how much it did. It
Not
did
sure
not,
that
so.
did.
Jonathan Bourne's email was very clear that high school needed their laptop, a notebook, and a pencil. So that was very easy for the first time ever.
Yep.
So,
And I also want to add, I don't want to ever take away from the excitement of sending your child to school. That was not the intent at all. It was more focus on what your child needs. Go to the store and purchase what your child needs, and we'll take care of the other
the
things.
bulk items.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Melanie had asked the question, is this in our budget? It has always actually been in our budget, so that's not a change.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Actually, yeah, one little thing. Tomorrow, I don't know if the temperature has changed, but for Beaverbrook and the second floor, especially at Woodsdale, and the first floor teachers too. But I know that I had asked in the last year, we had a brutal start to the school year. Are those schools equipped with fans again? And just in case it gets really hot, if it does still look like it's going to be 89 degrees, are we okay for that?
We'll make sure that they have what they need.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, the report of the Director of Finance and Operations, Mrs. Sarah Gainey.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I hope everyone had a great summer. We're going to start out first. We have an updated food service policy that we're going to take a look at. The first change with the food service policy is that we have a change in our software, our point of sale software. It is now called Mosaic, which is actually a cloud-based version of NutriKids. That is the first change that you will see. And the second change is that the updated policy references that this school year, Abington has been designated as a CEP district, which stands for Community Eligibility Provision. We have been designated that by DESE. And as you know, the state has funded free lunch this year, but even with that aside, we would still be receiving free lunch with this, under this provision. CEP is a provision that allows high-need schools to serve a free breakfast and a free lunch to each school daily. With community eligibility, families no longer need to complete meal applications, and it can reduce stigma, which allows all students eating meals at no charge regardless of their income status. And of course, nutritious meals are vitally important to academic success and overall well-being. So those are the two major changes with the policy, referencing our CEP status this school year and the change in software. So with that being said, would you consider a motion to approve the updated food service policy?
Does anyone have any questions for Sarah?
I have a question, not necessarily on the policy, so I don't know who to direct this question to, but without students applying for free or reduced lunch, how do we understand students who might need financial assistance for other things such as transportation?
That's a really good question. So we've had to adopt a whole new process for that actually this year. And DESE had some forms available on their website to kind of guide the way with that. We had to adopt a new procedure for athletics, transportation, some processes and guidance as well. And so there is a fee waiver form that is out there. We used it this year. And again, it's just based on how many family members are in the house with different thresholds of income. And it asks for different proof of income, and we were able to kind of go through and review those and make decisions based on those. The direct certified list does still apply in the CEP situation, so that many families still were on that. So in many cases, that still applied. So there were not as many families that had to do the fee waiver form. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
And so this doesn't require anyone to set up anything different?
No, it doesn't. And it actually cut back on paperwork for families. And as I said, we do have the universal state-funded free lunch, but this is another provision that we have in place. And it is a year-to-year provision that we will apply for.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the food service policy as recommended. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion second.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next up is transportation. We're in a really good place for tomorrow. The first major round of bus tags did go out on August 16th. I want to thank the transportation office, Colleen Greenlaw and Brenda Smith, and all of the central office staff that help out with everybody that comes by the office to fill out forms and provide payment, fill out the fee waiver form. It does get very busy in July and August, so they've been amazing. But that first big batch went on August 16th, followed by another batch on August 22nd, which really caught us up. They have done an amazing job. We're in a really good place to start tomorrow. So with that being said, of course, our main goal is to get kids on buses. That's what we're there for. That's what we're all about. We have really no surprises. We're consistent with where we've been in the past couple of years. We have about 58% of the student population on buses. And the routes are pretty long. The buses are pretty full, but not completely full. But we just ask that, people are patient. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to kind of see how things shake out. Things are going to be slow. We do expect some delays, especially the next couple of days. Bus drivers will be getting familiar with routes. Families will be taking pictures. I will be tomorrow.
Checking bus tags.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of that. So definitely the next couple of days will be slow. Tuesday's the first day of kindergarten after Labor Day. That will be slow as well. So we can expect delays. It's going to take us a little time to see how things shake out. We really won't be making any major changes for probably 2 weeks to a month to really see if anything major needs to be changed with the routes, but we'll continue to monitor it. Mrs. Greenlaw is the best. She knows what we're looking for, and we will make the changes as needed, but we'll monitor it closely. Drivers will familiarize themselves with the route. Some families decide not to use the bus, and that can change things. So we're monitoring it. We just ask people to be patient, and so far we're good. It's going to be a big day tomorrow. So does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
I have a quick one. And it's not you, it's more probably a John Stone question. Is the work done on Washington Street? I guess I don't care if it's done. Is it going to affect the bus routes, I guess, is what my question is.
It
So.
appears they need to paint,
I thought that too, because I drove on it this morning. There was no lines, so.
Yeah.
and they know we start school tomorrow.
Okay.
You talked
Understood.
about summer facility projects?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm not sure about, I did see them a little bit working today on it. I don't think there's lines, but
Okay, no, that's
hopefully
fine.
they do know that we start tomorrow. I had a conversation with Mr. Lynn about it, so
Okay.
hopefully. And then lastly, just to touch on our summer facility projects. It's been a very busy, productive summer in all of our buildings. I'm going to echo Dr. Michella. I would like to thank Jason Lynn and Eddie Belcher in our maintenance department. They have been extremely busy. All of our head custodians, all of our custodial staff, the food service department, DPW, the police department, fire department, building department, all play crucial roles in getting these buildings ready for back to school. We toured all of the buildings on Friday. They look amazing. We have one chance at making a great first impression to showcase the pride we take in our buildings and welcoming back our staff, students, and families. This is something that this team takes very seriously, and it's something that we couldn't be prouder of. Just a few items, punch list items that take place during the summer. The waxing of floors, and they are shining. Dusting, vacuuming, magic erasing pencils off walls, and filter changes of all kinds, from univents at the Woodsdale and the Beaverbrook with our older heating systems, to the rooftops here at 201, to water filling stations, lots of painting, touching up, full paint jobs, safety inspections of all kinds, fire suppression, fire extinguishers, fire alarms, gym safety, pest control, boilers, service, cleaned, tested. Kitchens, full service, cleaned, inspected, Board of Health inspections, hood servicing, the whole works, and so much more. I could go on, but I won't. It's a lot. A lot takes place this summer to get these buildings ready. And lastly, we had 3 articles take place this summer. 3 town meeting articles that were approved in April 2023 have reached completion this summer. We'd like to thank town meeting for approving these articles. The first article took place at the Frollo Administrative Building. We had much needed repairs made to our gym fire escape, the stairs that come off the back of the gym at the Frollo. So that is reaching completion. It has its final inspection Thursday. So that's been exciting. At the Beaverbrook, the gymnasium floors were resurfaced all the way down. They look beautiful. And at the Woodsdale School, the walk-in cooler was completely refurbished. So that was super exciting. If you visit the Beaverbrook, you will see that we have replaced all of the cafeteria furniture, which was paid for by the food service program. So that's exciting. And then at the Woodsdale School, they will also be receiving all new cafeteria furniture and a new food serving line, which will, both of those items will be arriving in the next 4 to 6 weeks, also paid for by food service. And that is all. Does anyone have any questions on those items?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Do we have any additional capital projects that we expect to happen during this school year?
Yes, we do have a couple.
And it's fine if you don't have this information prepared. I just don't know. At one point, there was paving that was happening at Beaverbrook, and I can't remember where that landed in the budget, it didn't land in the budget.
We still have, we have the electrical switchgear at the Frollo, which is in the works. That is, Jason has made contact with a company that will be doing that. So that will likely happen during the school year. That is the only article left from the April 2023 town meeting.
Okay.
In the 2024 town meeting, the only other thing was the ramp at the Frollo, which is a whole other, but that will be it.
Okay.
Yep. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Sarah.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
So next up, establishment of the next school committee meeting date. I make a little edit here. I think in talking with everybody, we are going to make a change this year, and so I'm going to ask, maybe let Eileen Walls know too, because I think it affects like the next page here where it has our school committee meeting dates. We're going to move our meetings to 6:30. At least for this year, that's the plan right now. If there's a certain date that has to change, everybody will be notified enough time. We're going to have a bunch of executive sessions this year that'll force us to stay afterwards. So we're going to move our meetings to 6:30 as the plan going forward. So the next school committee meeting will be September 24, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Here in the library. And I know in the handout there also is school committee meeting dates. Assume they're all going to be 6:30 going forward. On the subcommittee information, I just want to mention one thing. The other support staff, if we could put Pam, it's blank, I think. And then if we could just add the safety committee and just add Pam's name to that as well. It's liaison for that, so. And then everything else, if anybody wants to see it, I think I sent the text to everybody once I eventually got around to it a month after Dr. Michelle had started. There. So in some dates to remember, so first day of school tomorrow, this Friday there is no school. I believe central office is open though, right? On Friday, half day, okay. On Monday, September 2nd, no school, no offices open, it's Labor Day. Thursday, September 5th, Abington High School open house from 5 to 7 p.m. Monday, September 9th is the in-service early release date that Dr. Basta talked about earlier tonight. On Sunday, September 15th, there are 2 different things. The Abington Copes Road Race takes place starts at 9 a.m. at the Woodsdale School. And also from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. here at the high school in the cafeteria, the middle school cafeteria, is the Music Parents Craft Fair. And then on Tuesday, September 17th, in the middle school cafeteria at 7:30 p.m. is the boosters meeting. I was just looking to see when the middle school open house was.
It's September 4th.
Okay. So on Wednesday, September 4th, Abington Middle School's open house is also 5 to 7 p.m.
For
right?
grade 7 and 8.
Grade 7 and 8, yes. So 5 and 6 happened last night. Grade 7 and 8 will be on the 4th, and basically follow your child's schedule around by a bell schedule. So you get to meet the teachers that way. So, oh, kindergarten's first day and the EEP's first day is Tuesday, September 3rd as well. So no busing issues for the EEP, but there'll be plenty of traffic out in front of here. So anybody dropping off for the middle school, the high school, there'll be additional traffic out there for that. So please be careful there. Obviously, it's the youngest kids here. Everybody's 5 and under that will be out there. So please be careful as you do that. Pick up as well. Anyone have anything else they'd like to add before we wrap up? All right, so good luck to everybody, staff, administration, parents, students on a great school year. And with that, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.